Okay, so what kind of people do you have in? All kinds? Or
I have, up near the county line, I have a lot of farmers, and then just east of Wichita, I have a lot of wealthy business-type people. And then I've got the city of Andover, which is kind of mixed. I have a real mixed clientele.
Okay, okay. How did you first get involved in politics? Was this your first experience running for the House in 1990? Or?
This was my first experience in running for an elected position. However, I'll tell you how I got involved in politics. I got involved in politics by lobbying for a bill for our business back in 1984. My husband and I, we own a lot of real estate, commercial and residential in Wichita. We own small businesses. And one of the businesses we own is 3 bingo halls.
Okay.
And back in 1984, the legislature, we used to have one bingo game a night, 7 nights a week, and a different nonprofit organization would come in each night and rent the space and operate bingo, like a church or an optimist club and so forth. And in 1984, the legislature, in their wisdom, cut us down to 3 days a week.
Which, if it's your business, could be a real problem.
Oh, yeah. It cut us down to less than 50% of the time we had been open in the past. And when that was, it was real funny because I came up in support of a bill. It was a tax bill that took, we pay sales tax, or bingo people pay sales tax on the proceeds. In addition to that, they pay an additional 3% gambling tax.
Okay.
And we came up in support of this 3% additional tax to regulate the bingo industry, and the bill went through the Senate, and then it went through the House, where they changed the language and they cut the operations down to 3 days a week. And so I had I was told that wouldn't happen, and I was told when it got back to the Senate they would clean it up. And I was told we could correct it the next year, and I was told a lot of stories, and none of them ever came true. And that kind of, I watched the legislative process for years, and then it just happened to be in 1990 that we lived in a newly districted seat.
Okay.
So I did have experience lobbying before I ran for an office, which is a common experience.
So you were, I am looking right here at the record, you were in a primary election with quite a few other people.
Yeah.
And you did real well. You were 2.5 times or something like that ahead of, 45% against the closest follower was 21%. What did you do right starting in the primary that got you all these votes?
Well, I was an aggressive campaigner.
Okay.
I walked door to door. But in addition to that, I was a person, I think, that I was rather apolitical, or I was strong in my value system, and I think people looked at me like a person that wouldn't change my mind on issues, because I had a rather strong personality, and I thought these people either want me up there or they don't, and I'm not going to disguise who I am to get elected, or be politically expedient to get elected. I just felt like, I'm a conservative, and they knew that through my literature. So.
Okay, you're a Republican. You just called yourself a conservative. I usually say, why are you a Democrat or why are you a Republican? Why are you a Republican and why are you a conservative? What is it that you...
Oh, I'm concerned. I'm very... I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm very concerned about the direction of this nation. In Kansas, we operate on the cash basis law, but right now, federally, we are $4 trillion in debt, and I think that we don't have much to give up to leave for our children, to give our kids with this debt that we're passing on, and we aren't dealing with it. We're not solving the real problems, and so when I ran for this seat, I presented myself as a person that was willing to cut, even on a state level, even though we don't have near the fiscal problem we have federally, but it all adds up. And that's, as a business person, and I pay a lot of taxes, and I don't think that a lot of times government watches those bottom lines like a private business would. I think the government can they abuse tax dollars. And so anything that I could do to bring accountability into that system, I want to do.
That's real cool.
So, yeah.
So you went on to do very well in the general election. It's open seat, but still you got 62% of the vote, which is a good, strong win. Were there any other issues or dynamics that came up in the election you think were important?
I think it was a good election because none of us were incumbents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so none of us had anything over the other individual. And I think it was an issues-oriented race. And I sent out a statement saying where I was on all the major issues. And I guess I did something right.
Looks like it. 62%. It's real good. Now, who helped you? How did you know how to do it? Who else or what other forces helped you win this election?
My husband. See, we're business owners, and my sister, she works for our corporation. Her degree's in marketing, and she was probably the best person as far as cleaning up our mail-out materials and making them look professional and less wordy and to the point. So I had a marketing person and my husband, and we kind of did it ourselves.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So were you able to go to the local Republican committee very much, or?
No, they weren't much help. Okay. It was a 5-way primary,
yeah. And
so they wanted to stay out of the primary, and then really we don't have a strong Sedgwick County Republican Party. They'd send you money, but they aren't really a strong organization that helps get people elected.
Okay. Did you have anybody go with you door to door except your husband, maybe some other people?
No, I did it myself. Senator Eric Yost gave me advice. He was a friend. But it's still up to the candidate to put those long hours in. And, it's nothing but a lot of work.
I have heard that before.
Yeah.
Okay, you win, and a good solid win, and you come up here to Topeka. Did you have an image of what your job was going to be here and how you're going to do it?
I did from my experience of lobbying. I knew the committee system, and I knew, by the time I'd worked with the legislature since 1984, I knew the process. And I came in as a much more experienced freshman than most.
Mm-hmm. You're a member of the Commercial and Financial Institution Committee, member of Labor and Industry, Public Health and Welfare. Were these the committees you asked for?
Yeah, all three of them.
Why did you want them?
I felt like that's where my talents were. I used to work for, I'm a former teacher, but before that, when I was going through college, I worked for Child Protective Services, SRS in Wichita, and I had I had some ideas about SRS, so I asked for public health. Banking, I had a lot of people interested in banking in my district. And labor and industry, I'm a businesswoman, that's just right down my alley. So.
Have you had any mentors or support groups or something here that you feel have really helped you do your job?
I don't think the support systems are that strong. I think the support systems are where we go out and form our own friendships and talk in the evenings, or I don't think there's they have a mentor system and I have a mentor in my office, but really the support comes from your own friendships and your own coalitions that you develop on your own. And you have to go out and seek that. Or else it could be a lonely place,
Are there any role models that you particularly pattern yourself off of? A certain style or a certain person who seems to you to get the job done you want to get done?
I don't really have any. As a new person in the legislature, I get a little disgruntled with people falling in line on those voting boards, and kind of going with the crowd. I really feel like this is quite, for a group of what you think would be very independent type people. There's a lot of following the leader around here. I think.
Very interesting. Okay. It's only been a little more than a year. But are there any issues or battles or bills or even losses that have come up so far that seem to you very memorable?
Well, I think the issue that was the issue when I was elected. It was the issue when we lost the Republican governorship and we lost Mike Hayden. I think the issue out there is property tax relief, and I especially for commercial businesses, I don't think that everybody grasps what we are doing to business in the state of Kansas right now. We're reliant. They say in 1992 we're going to, out of the total tax pie, we're going to get 47% of that income from property tax, and the most healthy mix in any state is like 33 property, 33 income, and 33 sales. So we're very over reliant on property tax, and it's the one thing I seem to get the most calls about, and the one thing that seems to be hurting business, which is forcing them to lay off people, losing jobs over it. And so I think that's going to have to be resolved this year, or there will be a greater turnover in the legislature.
I've heard that, too. Well, turning to, let me stop and ask you one more question. This is a project interviewing women, so it won't surprise you that the question is, in all of what you've done so far, deciding to run, running, getting elected, operating here, is there anything that has seemed to you to be different because you're a woman?
I think there's more opportunity. I think there's more opportunity for women because there's fewer of us, and I think the men respect us, most of us, and I think that as long as you are a friendly and outgoing, congenial type person, I think there's all kinds of opportunity here. Besides the edge you have when you get elected, I've read an article that, being just female and running for an office, you get 10% more votes. Mm-hmm. So I think there's far more opportunity here for women than men.
Okay. Well, I'm also interested in your personal life without intruding. And so first of all, let me ask about your early family. You were born in 1953. Mm-hmm. Where were you born, into what kind of family?
I was born in Pennsylvania, moved to Kansas when I was 3, second born of 6 children. Really spent my entire education or school life in Wichita. Graduated from WSU.
Mm-hmm. So, in your family, you probably had a mother and a father. Were they traditional? Did your mother function as a housewife? Your father?
Right. My probably traditional family. Mother was a housewife. Dad worked on computers, and they were both pretty politically astute people. They were registered Republicans. We talked issues, I'd say, at dinner. They were involved. They were real interested in every one of their children having a college education because they didn't have that, and that's something that they wish they had received, wish they'd gotten. So I'd say typical family for that time period.
Again, you're doing something that is still somewhat unusual for women. When you were growing up, what kind of roles did you think you would have as a woman?
I never felt limited because I was female in anything. I know that women think they have been. I've never felt discriminated against. I ran all our businesses. I've worked in a lot of jobs, and I've always felt like the sky's the limit, or what we, however far we push ourselves is how far we're going to go. I think we really determine our own destinies, and I haven't ever felt that me being female has been in the way of anything. So
Good. Okay, you, now, if I have this right, you graduated from WSU,
Uh-huh.
Wichita State University in 1979. So that's, if I'm dividing right, you were 25 or 26 when you
Yeah.
graduated. Did you
Yeah.
work for a while and go back to school, get married? Tell me about your...
I was married and divorced first time. And the first time I was married, I was helping my husband get through school. And then after I got divorced, I decided, well, it's my turn. So I put myself through school after that. And so that's why I was later.
Okay. And you were married to it sounds like a real good husband, really
Yeah.
good supporter.
Uh-huh.
And you have now 3 children.
I now have 4.
You now have 4 children.
I was
Okay,
one of the
so it's the
pregnant
4th one that was born last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
was one of the pregnant ladies in the legislature last year.
Well, that makes it, I did know that, but I was thinking it was number 3, not number 4.
Yeah, oh, no,
that
he's
makes
number
it
4.
all the more vital that I ask you, how do you do this? How do you manage a family, 4 children, not to mention pregnancy? How do you arrange your private, your public
Well,
life?
we've always, Tom and I have always owned our own businesses, and I could always work for, for our income, and if I didn't want to work on the day, I didn't work. I've always had the flexibility of, I feel like, the best of both worlds, being mom if I wanted to stay home with the kids one day, and if I wanted to get out, I could work. And so I've never seen work as a conflict with home as long as home is managed properly. I have a housekeeper because the few hours that I'm home, I don't want to be keeping house, and I have a nanny, and so things that a lot of women would do at home to keep the house organized, I'm not real involved with. And instead, when I'm at home, I do more interacting with the kids so that I don't lose that. It is very difficult, though. We talked about moving the kids up here, but my kids are so happy. We go to Andover schools. It's a small school system. We have a neighborhood full of kids, and my kids are very happy in their environment. And if they came up with me, it would be 3 months with a different set of people. And so when we ran for office, we thought it'd be better for us, for them to stay at home and me do the commuting. And the other thing we do is I've talked to their teachers, and they'll come up, and the kids will sit on the floor with me. They'll bring their homework up. We'll do a lot of them coming up to see me for a day. If I felt like it was hurting our family life, I would not run again. And because I wouldn't want my daughters at some point to say, Mom, you didn't have time for me. But so far they've been supportive, and I think it's because I've involved them and brought them up here and had them try to be a part of it. But that's tricky.
I bet. Now, how old were they when you were running in 1990? Obviously, the one that wasn't born wasn't anything yet.
Yeah. John was 3. Andrea was 7. And Julie was 9.
Okay.
So they were young.
You come up here during the week and go home every weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't come up till Monday morning. And if possible, sometimes I try to sneak home on Thursday night, or if they're doing a play or something, I'll go home for that and drive up the next day. I don't sleep a lot. We don't get, we aren't the type of family that, if I go home, I'm up by 4 the next morning coming up here, and I'm just not, in order to get everything done that we have to get done, it's usually late to bed and early to rise, but I'm getting used to that, so I don't,
You look okay, so it can't be killing you.
No, yeah, it's not. I feel like as long as I have that energy, I may as well use it.
Okay. Again, this is a question which is a little bit prying, but for some people, the cost is devastating. You are not paid a lot. How do you handle the cost of being in the legislature in terms of your family finances?
I feel like I'm here for a cause. I'm here to create a better tomorrow for my children, and just my involvement in the legislature. I know that what we're doing today totally affects their future, and what kind of environment they're going to have, and how healthy the state's going to be, 10, 20 years from now, is totally dependent on these decisions today. And so it is a total sacrifice, but it's like, to me, it's just very important to me that we're very careful about the decisions we make up here, and that we have a family represented, and that we have conservatives and business people represented who don't necessarily think that the best answer to everything is another law and government taking it over and stepping in. I try to push things away from that, or to make the family stronger. So
now, I'm assuming that your husband keeps on running the business and just sort of gets along without you, and then you sort of take up the slack when you get home.
Yeah, right. And I'll go home this weekend and I'll do books and stuff for January. Okay. Yeah, he'll run the business himself, and then when I'm at home, I'll work maybe 2 days a week. Okay. And we'll take time off in the summer, go on vacations and stuff. We have to make time to do things as a family, or else it slips by. So we try to do that.
I take it you probably are thinking of running again?
Yeah. In fact, I have announced for a Senate seat.
Ah. Now, is this an open Senate seat, or?
It's Eric Yost is my senator, and he's going to run for Congress.
Okay.
And he's the vice president of the Senate, and he kind of would like me over on the other side, so he's real supportive of that.
So you're doing it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's going to be an even bigger campaign.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I'll tell you, family life is a lot easier in the Senate. A lot of them, they won't be here on Fridays. See, there's only 40 people over there to argue, and they get through things in half the time or less than we do. And so the time, although there's more letter writing and more phone calls because you have a bigger constituent base, the time on the floor is less. And I think it would be helpful towards my family situation, because I know they go home a lot of nights on Thursday night. And see, we aren't allowed to do that in the house, because we just kind of drag everything out in the house.
That's fascinating. I haven't heard that perspective before, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a 4-year seat. You don't have to worry about running again. And so I've announced, contingent on everything working out with my family, and we really felt like we needed to go through this a second year and see what kind of impact it has. So,
how was it being pregnant and being up here? Was there any problem with that?
I didn't have any problems, but then I didn't have any physical problems either. I imagine if you had a complicated pregnancy, it'd be more difficult because it'd be too strenuous.
Well, my mother worked until the day I was delivered, so I come from stock that did that.
Yeah.
Is there something you thought I'd ask you that I haven't? Is there something you'd like to say?
No,
You said you were a teacher. What were you a teacher of?
Oh, I taught regular classroom, grade school, and then I also taught emotionally disturbed kids. So I taught special ed. That teaches you a lot about SRS and government and healthy families and families that aren't healthy. So
this is all kind of a continuation of what you've been doing.
Oh yeah. I think I've had a good social background and a good business background, and I think I can balance the two up here when it comes to tax issues and government involvement issues. So it's kind of fun.
You look like it's fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like all I've got left to say is thank you very much for giving me the time.
Oh, okay. I hope it works out for you.